It's Super T Sigma with Sigma Programming one more time. Thank you for your time and attention. Over here, reaching is teaching. So it's all right to have free thought and have an open mind. I want to talk about factory settings. In this great reset, we have what is going on that can be called factory settings. And I want to connect this to an incident in the Old Testament where an idol was discovered hidden by a tribe, and that tribe ended up getting swallowed up. They fell through a sinkhole in the earth. This is in the time of Moses in the Old Testament. They were going through their journeys and people were beginning to die from plagues. A sickness started to spread throughout the camp and Israel was starting to drop off. And it was connected to an idol. So all of the tribes were being called up and sifted through. And they were using like a divination technique really to kind of divine this technique of sifting through. And I think they were either cutting straws or doing something. But either way, there was some divination involved. Just a little food for thought. That's really a sidebar to this. The factory setting of this particular group was connected to whatever this idol was. So they were worshiping something else and they ended up getting swallowed up. The earth opened up. We're in a similar situation now because in a way, the world has opened up. You don't see a lot of places requiring you to wear masks before you enter a building. But what you do have now is a spiritual masking up that's still happening in society. And that mask is suppressing the person. What does a mask do? It covers your face. You get muffled. Your voice is suppressed. Your voice is suppressed. Your voice gets suppressed like this. And eventually you can't breathe. This is what happens with idolatry. What if a person that you're investing all your time and energy to, what if that particular person or superstar dies on you? How much of you is going to die with them? This is the dangers of idolatry, the dangers of what can happen when you're being restored to factory settings. All of us are being restored to our factory settings. This is also how you find out that some of your besties were really envious of you, and you find out who all the Judases are amongst your disciples. This is how you find out, because a great factory reset has taken place. You understand? And this factory reset, these times, this pandemic, the prices of the food, the prices of the gas, all of this is pressing and squeezing people into their true form, is pulling their mask off. So all of this happy-go-lucky that they might have been 15, 20 years ago, they might not be that now, because maybe at the time they were using things like inflation, job security to suppress the depression and the inner anguishes that they did not want to face at the time, so they could numb it by a more providential time in human history. But now we're in a time that has not been seen since the 1920s. You have to be at least 100 years old to understand what we're going through now, experience wise. We're being restored to a factory setting. This can happen every 100 years. Why not? Look, everything has matched up to it now. And with this great factory setting, you really got to make sure that you are who you are. You have to make sure that you're about what you're about, because if not, this is the time when you're automatically being yanked back into your factory settings, which you were when the phone first got to the person. Factory settings. Before you started putting in numbers, before you started downloading apps, factory settings, the pure thing that it is, the pure state that it is. Were you really a messenger, or were you just trying to hang around messengers, hoping that one day you would be a messenger? Well, guess what? The factory settings are on, and there has been a great factory reset, a great restoration. And now you've been reset to who you really was, which is a person who's trying to follow the next thing. And when there's too many things to follow, you just get pulled apart trying to follow too many things in too many different directions. And there you are, factory resettings. What you were was a bomb that had exploded already. Once that bomb explodes, it's going to destroy. After the destruction, you can't put neither the things together nor the bomb back together. And then you have people that implode. They just hide in their cells, retire, and vanish into nothing. No fruit is produced. They end up dying of some kind of deep depression, possibly just dying of good old-fashioned heartbreak. This can really happen to people, and this does really happen to people. People's hearts are actually failing them. People are dropping dead from heart attacks now at just about any age. So the great factory reset is definitely on. The switch has been flipped to the right or the left, whatever flips it, green or on. You understand? This is a serious warning against idolatry. What is idolatry? anything that you pretty much worship, that you would put more energy into than yourself. There's an exception made for childcare. If you're raising children, that's not considered an idolatry to be pouring your energy into them, because you're actually producing fruit, and you're actually producing, you're in the action of an outpouring when you do things like that, when you take care of people. These things don't represent idolatry. Idolatry is like if you have a favorite hero of yours and you're laying in bed thinking about whatever they got going on, and you spend most of your day wondering what they got going on instead of what you have going on. You see? Because there's this chain of command that comes with heroism, and everyone who has a hero is a hero. Everyone who has a hero is a hero. Even if you don't have a hero, you're still a hero because somebody sees you. Somebody sees you. And you continuing to be the same consistent you, the authentic you, the genuine you. Now that the factory reset is on, nothing has really changed but the world around you. Things look weird to you, but you haven't changed. It's just that things change. You don't know how the person's studies wore off. You're confused as to how the person is no longer this cheerful, bubbly optimist. You wonder how this person is no longer engaged in all of the building and the teachings and the knowledge. You wonder how these people are all of a sudden not focused on whatever they want their main career to be. They're not dreaming anymore. Their language is back to the old paradigm of struggle and perpetual struggle. And you can hear the sighing and the loss and lowered vibration inside of their aura. You can feel it when you're around them. The air just gets very, very thick, very, very dense, and very, very heavy. You could feel it, but maybe they weren't like this when you first met them. They probably weren't like this 5 or 6 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. They probably weren't this way. They were probably a totally different person. And the times of this world caused them to go back to a time before the times that were good. So at that time, like I said before, they were probably using the providential times that we were in when the economics and everything else was better to numb the pain of the things and the inner anguishes that they did not reconcile before the times got good. So now when times are back, quote unquote, bad again, they fall back into the factory setting of who they really are. Now they need a new thing to follow. They might need a new messenger. You know, a lot of churches have lost their steam. They might need a new religion to follow. They might need a new God to serve. You understand? Factory settings. They might have been just reachers. They might have been just needy at the soul. May have been just wandering at the core. You be who you are at factory settings. See, I knew that there was a difference between the setting I was in and my factory settings. There was a discrepancy with myself as well. I was heavy into the right-hand path, fully. But it took me years and years and years to really rewind things and slow it down and think to myself, what was I before that? What was I before I became religious? Who was I? And I went back to that and I saw my factory setting. So in this time of a factory reset, when I went back to that, I found freedom. And I realized that the whole time I was on an assignment to ascertain certain things from the right-hand path. But my factory setting is the left hand. My factory setting is the chaotic energy, the primordial forces. And so my journey into the right-hand path and spending most of my life on the right-hand path was all about the control, bringing order to that natural chaos. So once I was able to learn and understand the order, now we're in a time where everybody's being reset, and I'm taking that as the conclusion of whatever that particular message was or lesson was. And now I'm free to be the me who I was before the times were good. You understand? Because times are quote unquote bad now. They're quote unquote rough now. But before this, 15, 20 years ago, a lot of things were different. You know, even going back before 9/11, you can go back before that. Times was it was okay in the 90s, money wise and things like that. It was straight. It was straight. It was better than it is now on every front. But before that time, before the 90s, whoever I was as a kid in the 80s, that's my factory setting. So I was always a studious person, always learned, always liked to speak, to talk, to communicate with people. I was this way before even my memories of it. This is said about others who see me as 3, 4, 5 years old doing this. So I'm in my factory setting. This is my reset. But on the right-hand path, I was doing a version of this also. But it's much more natural now that I don't have certain psychic restraints on me now. So this is part of a grand journey when you get the factory reset. It's not a bad thing. Just try to remember who you were as far back as you can remember and work from that timeline and move forward, because you can actually undo a lot of the spiritual results that happened in the past. Although you can't go back and change the events, you can go back and change your perspective of the events. You can go back and change how you feel about the events. And more importantly, you can go back and choose your response now to the events then. Don't let some fear of the past make you a timid person now. Look at that thing in the past and know that since you survived it, you have every reason to be brave now. That's how you go back and fix things. But this and many other gems that I'd be on here forever trying to dig into. But long story short, your factory resettings. Only as a child can you enter into the kingdom of heaven. You have to go back to your original factory setting. It's Super T Sigma with Sigma Programming. I thank you so much for your time and attention. I thank you for your support, your likes, your comments. It's beautiful. I love it. I get more energy from it. And I want to just invest the same into you. So this is Super T Sigma. Peace.